Hey, everybody. It's Eddie from Tokyo. This is your cryptocurrency update from Japan, and I'm really happy to tell you that I have Dino and Brian joining us from Santiment. They are an analysis uh, tools website that's been collecting data on the cryptocurrency space for more than 3 years, and they have an amazing amount of tools that they're going to tell us about. They're going to talk about XRP in the beginning here, because we've had this really unusual event that took place with the flare snapshot. And then also we're going to look at some social analytics with some other projects. So I'm going to just bring the screen to where they are going to share with you and explain. I think we're going to hear from Brian first. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay, so Brian and Dino might chime in, but just to let everyone know, this is just purely out of my love for these kinds of tools, and they have been so um, helpful and kind to join one more time, second time in the last 30 days to share with us just a smattering of what they have to offer. And I just love it. So I'm going to leave it to them to take it from here. And Brian, thank you so much. Go ahead.
Thanks so much, Eri, for the warm introduction. And we're very excited to show you guys some of the metrics that we've been seeing, especially since the aforementioned snapshot that Eddie discussed a few minutes ago. What we're looking at right now is our daily active address metric, which is one of our favorites. It's simply a overall perception of what the amount of address activity is at any given time for any given asset, such as Ripple, like we're looking at right now. As you can see here, all these orange bars are representing every single day of daily active addresses for the last 6 months. Over time, we've seen a bit of fluctuation, and you'll notice that when the orange bars rise, that tends to be when price rises either simultaneously or soon after. What we really like to value are the bullish or bearish divergences that come from it, because oftentimes you'll see a bar come up prior to the price actually reacting to it, and that's when those divergences happen to tell you, before the price actually fluctuates in that direction, that the price is either about to rise or about to fall. Now, we can look at certain instances of this, such as this bar here, to an extent, these three big bars that happened right at the turn from July to August. And then you see a decline that kind of coincided with these big dips in daily active addresses. So overall, what we're seeing here is that we'll often have major spikes that will indicate a rise, or sometimes a sell-off will kind of show as a daily active address candle, and then actually see the price drop from it. So you'll notice these anomaly spikes that occur over time as we lead up to the big snapshot, where prices just exploded at that time. But you'll see even here, like this candle here was our biggest in, roughly, I'd say 2.5, a little over 2.5 months here. This was a key trigger to tell us that something was underway. And sure enough, when the snapshot, was announced and people started to get very excited, that's when you started to see these huge spikes in daily active addresses. And sure enough, it topped out right when we had this large anomalous spike here on November 24th, followed by a huge dip back down because of the fact that the addresses were not sustaining themselves up here. So without taking too much time on it, I would highly value this metric. If you're coming to our platform for the first time, it's one of the first things I'm looking at anytime I want to analyze any asset, and Ripple is certainly no exception. And what I'm going to do now is show
XRP, or everyone will be leaving me tons of comments when you call XRP Ripple, because Ripple's a company, XRP's the digital asset. And I don't mean to interrupt you, but I just know I can foresee the comments coming in when the digital asset is called Ripple.
Yeah, absolutely. That's something that I should be mindful of. I definitely want to know that we're talking about XRP token as opposed to just the associated company. So thank you
Yeah,
for that correction.
sorry.
Yeah, of course. So what we're looking at now is the 24-hour version of just the last week of daily active addresses for XRP. And as XRP here has grown, beginning on the 8th, a week ago, we saw that this was all basically hype leading up to the snapshot, the flare snapshot that happened on December 12th at midnight. My time zone, which I'm showing right now, is 7 hours behind that. So it's going to show December 11th at 17 o'clock because I'm 7 hours behind UTC time. This was when the snapshot occurred, though. And you'll notice the daily active addresses, not so coincidentally, peaked right here as the snapshot happened and then immediately fell off a cliff, right? And this was basically a forewarning that the snapshot had taken place. The crowd was immediately disinterested in continuing to interact at the skyrocketed, elevated rate that it was happening at prior to the snapshot, and it was time to see a dump. And sure enough, the dump did occur. This is, of course, a temporary, short-term reaction to a fundamental event. So you have to take it with a grain of salt and understand that the overall long-term metrics are going to be much different than this. But you can see very clearly here, I marked the snapshot when it happened, and once you saw that it had peaked and it was starting to climb down, that would have been your temporary signal to exit out of XRP if that was something you wanted to do as a short-term trade.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, telling. It's very clear.
So next, I'll just do a quick analysis on how volume looked over that same period of time over the past weeks. This is just overall trading volume for XRP. You'll notice we actually had our biggest volume spike a couple days before, and right when it peaked, wouldn't you know it, price dropped down. Again here, price dropped down. And then the snapshot actually occurred here, and it didn't quite have that same peak that daily active addresses had. And that's precisely why I kind of prefer daily active addresses. Now, volume is something you could get on other platforms like TradingView and simply, follow along. As TA traders may know, generally, whatever direction the price is going, if there is rising volume going into that, that tends to be a sign that the rally can continue. If you see a price, let's say you see like a price sort of stagnation or price drop while volume is still rising, that would be a bullish divergence, and vice versa. The price is rising, volume's dropping, that would be a bearish divergence. So just want to point out how it looked from a volume perspective. And lastly, I'd like to show what it looked like from a social volume perspective. Now, social volume is essentially all the total mentions that we see and collect on any public platform that's on Reddit, Telegram, Twitter, Discord, or a fifth category, which we call Pro Traders Chat, which is from, I think, a series of small group chats. But essentially, this is adding all of the social volume together anytime XRP is mentioned to show how the crowd is reacting and how much discussion is being had anytime the price is moving in a significant direction. That's when you'll see those spikes occur the most. You'll see here back on December 9th, right when it peaked, this was actually the largest social volume spike we had in any given hour prior to the couple days before and even days after until we got snapshot time.
Yeah, a lot of activity.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead, Eddie.
I just said there was a lot of activity on the social.
Oh, absolutely. And of course, here's the snapshot here in gray. The biggest social volume spike happened just about an hour before then. This is when everyone was talking about it, warning their friends that they needed to get into XRP or they were going to miss out on the snapshot, right? So as soon as it actually happened, social volume fell off a cliff. And this was basically the sign to tell us that the price was about to top, right? We see that price tops occur on big spikes. They also can occur on big drops. So essentially, the big spikes in social volume can be used to tell you when there's a price reversal imminent, whether it is up or down. And I thought this was a really cool illustration here, seeing such a massive social volume spike of 127 mentions in a given 15-minute interval, which all of these bars are representing, compared to, the prior spikes being around, 39, 20, 39, 40, around that range. So it was obviously a huge discussed moment in time for XRP holders. All right, I'm going to actually show this and briefly explain what it is, but I want to give Dino the floor for a few minutes to explain what holders distribution actually is. We discussed it briefly, Eddie, on our last call, but I want to just show what it looked like as a reflection of the snapshot and how things changed for different holders here. Essentially, these bars are representing different tiers of holders depending on how many tokens of XRP are in their addresses. So if you see the 1,000 to 10,000, 10,000, 100,000 lines here, all represented by that legend here in the top left, these are the different behaviors. So the yellow and brown lines, those are the ones you really want to look at as the top holders with 1 million to 10 million, 10 million to infinity. And Dino, if you want to grab the floor here for a couple minutes and explain further, please do.
Thanks, Brian. Yeah, so, by the way, I can hear an echo of myself.
Yeah.
Somebody might want to mute their mic.
I'll mute mine.
Okay. There.
Right. Testing. Yeah, I can still hear it. Eri, could it be on your end?
Yeah, I had just muted mine. I'll mute it again starting now.
Okay, testing.
Oh.
No. Oh, you know what? I think. Give me 1 second.
No, can't hear you. We lost you.
Hello.
Yeah. Good.
Okay, I'm back.
Okay. Yep.
Okay. So as Brian was saying, the holder distribution metric, essentially what it shows is the amount of XRP addresses or the amount of XRP held by a specific group of addresses, right? So Brian, if you want to just zoom back out to that previous screen so that people can see the addresses or the address cohorts that we're looking at. Yeah, there we go. So here in particular, we're looking at the amount of XRP that is being held by 4 different categories of holders. So anyone holding from 1,000 to 10,000, 10,000 to 100,000, all the way up to addresses holding between 10 million and infinity, or 10 million plus, right? So it's a very interesting trend that we've seen in the last couple of days, especially around the time of the snapshot. What we have seen is a strong decline in pretty much all of the XRP holder categories, except the last one, the one of addresses holding between 10 million and upwards XRP, which are usually, there's a few whales there, but it's usually populated or dominated by exchange wallets, right? So this is something, the way that the Spark airdrop has been sort of designed is something that I would expect to happen. I think that a lot of people have been kind of stocking up on XRP in the expectation of the snapshot, or in, sort of in the few days before it, and then they have sort of sold some portion of their XRP in the sort of 2 days around after the snapshot, right? So we see this massive drop-off in their combined balances between December 11th and December 13th, pointing to short-term sell-offs. The airdrop itself, to me at least, was the sort of a classic buy the rumor, sell the news type of event. So if you were looking at this type of metric, you could definitely see there's going to be an increased sell-side pressure on XRP, which is going to tank the price down further. Now, what you are seeing in the past couple of days, however, is that most of these holder cohorts are starting to once again acquire XRP. So there have been sort of short-term sell-offs, but in the last couple of days, 4 to 5 days, we have seen most groups of XRP holders, both retail and whales, are starting to move back into it. So I think it was sort of an expectation that the price was going to dump maybe even higher than it, or maybe even lower than it did. And then once we sort of stabilized at around 0.5, I think various holder groups have started flocking back to the coin, which is something that should be a healthy sign of the XRP sort of mid and long term stability and price potential. You definitely want to see both retail, but especially whales. Especially like, for example, if you look at this metric for Bitcoin, you'll see that some of the main categories of holders that have been accumulating throughout this rally have actually been these mega whales and Bitcoin millionaires, whereas retail crowd was kind of not really existent in this rally. It's been mostly institutional interest. So you definitely want to see this particular group, these last few groups of holders. So, addresses holding between 100,000 and million, 1 million, 10 million XRP and higher. You want to see these types of addresses start to accumulate back up. And we've been seeing that in the past couple of days. Obviously, this isn't going to necessarily mean a swift price recovery, but on the long stick, I would definitely keep an eye on this metric so you can kind of check out what the health of the Bitcoin, of the XRP whales and what their sentiment about the coin is at any given time.
So the pink one is the wallets from 100,000 to 1 million. Is that right? Oh, yeah.
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay, so
okay.
this pink line seems to be.
That's one thing that I wanted to share. And then Brian, if you also want to share before we end, because I know that we're kind of
it's okay. I asked a question and I forgot that my mic was on. I just wanted to see the pink line that's bouncing back. That is the wallets that are from about 100,000 to 1 million. That's the one that's really bouncing back.
It's one below that, 10K to 100K.
10K to 100K. Okay.
Oh, the one that's really bouncing back seems to be the red one, right? So
yeah, the red one.
100,000 to 1 million.
Okay,
right. Yeah,
so
the red is the 100 to 1 million.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to make sure I was understanding, because that's a pretty significant bounce back in comparison to the 1,000 to 10,000, or that purple one is the one that just is, what is the purple? Oh, I can't find purple here. 10,000 to 100,000?
Yeah, 10K to 100K.
So the people that are really buying back in are the people who are with wallets of 100,000 to 1 million. Those are big wallets.
Yeah. And this is, I think, once again, I think this was sort of an overreaction on the snapshot news, this sort of decline in their combined balances. I think, given the way that the airdrop has been set up, it's sort of natural, and we can show a few more metrics that really do show that there has been an increase in sell-side pressure around the time that the snapshot was finally released, as people were expecting a lot of people to dump their XRP. And then, we had a short-term correction. We went from about 0. I think, what was it, like 0.58 to about 0.05 or 0.5. So there has been a sort of short-term price correction, but it hasn't really been as dramatic as I think a lot of people have expected. So now that we have stabilized once again around the support level of 0.5, people seem to be, and especially the sort of mid and high-level categories of XRP holders seem to be flocking back to the coin, which is definitely something to keep in mind. And moving forward, I would, as a sign of a healthy network, I would expect all of these addresses to continue to accumulate in the next couple, basically until the end of the year.
Yeah, super interesting. I like it. Okay, go ahead. I don't want to hold you up anymore.
All right, cool. Thanks, Eri. So, Brian, I wanted to, if you can share the exchange inflow for XRP, and then just kind of, there has been a massive spike in it somewhere around, I think it was December 8th. So if you can move out of that or zoom out of that massive spike and move to between like December 8th and the latest date in XRP's exchange inflow, I just want to show just how big this sort of rise in sell side pressure was in the past, especially between like December 11th and December 13th. Yeah, there we go. So you can definitely see a pretty massive rise in. So the current, what you're currently seeing is the amount of XRP that is being moved away from individual addresses to known exchange wallets between December 8th and December 15th. So there has obviously been a pretty substantial rise in the amount of XRP being moved to exchanges after the snapshot has been taken, pointing to elevated sell-side pressure, which I think inevitably was going to drive the price lower. And this is exactly what happened. So when you combine the what we've seen just a minute ago in terms of all of these different kind of addresses or groups of addresses dumping their XRP, and then you see these spikes in the amount of XRP moving to exchanges, it's been obvious that there's been a fair amount of, you can call it panic sell-offs or holder capitulation, but in any way, there have been people thinking that the XRP price was going to dump, and this is exactly what kind of happened. And if you also, Brian, plot the token H consumed as a metric, over this, you'll also notice, so token H consumed is a metric that tracks the renewed activity of previously dormant XRP. You can kind of see the several spikes here up until December 11th, where we've noticed, a cluster of these purple spikes pointing to increased activity of previously dormant XRP wallets. Pointing to the fact that, both whales and long-term XRP holders, some long-term XRP holders have been sort of looking to exit the market around this time. Now, all of these metrics, including, whale balances, exchange inflow, token H consumed, even daily active addresses, in the past couple of days, they have started back normalizing. Even the funding rate, like Brian, if you look at the, so deselect all of the metrics and just show the funding rate on BitMEX. This is another metric that we have. Basically, what you're going to see now is the derivative market, and you'll see the sort of the fee paid by one side of the perpetual contract to the other. So essentially, when the funding rate is positive, that means that longs are paying shorts, or the market is bullish on average. When the funding rate is negative, it means that shorts are paying longs. So Brian, if you zoom out to the last year of data, you will see just how big this dip was. Yeah, there we go. So it's the highest that we've seen since the Black Thursday crash. Essentially, especially on BitMEX, there's been a fair amount of FUD around XRP at the time of the XRP snapshot. So there's been a lot of people shorting XRP on the BitMEX and a few other exchanges that I've seen as well, pointing to the fact that, people have been expecting the price to drop quite consistently. In the past couple of days, however, as it happened with most of these metrics, we have come back to these normal levels of activity. So we went back from minus 0.75%, which is a complete outlier, right? A black swan event almost, to just sort of normal levels. It's actually gone to a bit bullish on average in terms of the funding rate of BitMEX. The market has realized that I think it's overreacted a little bit to the news of the snapshot, and now we're just back to business as usual. So I would hope to see all of these metrics continue to consolidate and normalize in days to come. Ideally, what you want to see for XRP is now sort of an exhausted sell-side pressure and more sort of, signs of, people moving back to accumulating, not really selling it, but holding on to their bags for the time being. One thing that I do want to notice is that I've been reading an article on Cointelegraph a few days ago. There was somebody was interviewed about XRP's sort of chances in the midterm, and they said, despite this downward for the past week, I think 0.9 is still within reach in the short to medium term for XRP. And he says, especially if sentiment around BTC remains as bullish as it's been in the recent weeks. So this is something that I have to debunk myself. One of the metrics that we track on our website is crowd sentiment, right? So in the past, what we've seen, especially for Bitcoin, and I mean, Brian, I can share this. I already have it on if you want. Just give me 1 sec. Let me share it. And let me know if I'm going over time, and we can just end it here. But I wanted to show that I don't think this is right. I don't think that we should be looking for extremely bullish sentiment towards Bitcoin or any coin in particular.
I think it's
here you're looking at
super interesting. So feel free to keep going. Yeah.
Okay, great. So here, what we're looking at here, we call it Bitcoin weighted social sentiment. It's essentially crowd sentiment for a particular coin. So we collect about 100,000 new messages from dedicated crypto social media channels on a daily basis. And in the past year, we've developed a custom machine learning algorithm which parses all of these messages and then labels them as either positive, negative, or ambivalent, right? So what you're seeing on this particular chart essentially is the difference between positive and negative sentiment towards Bitcoin in particular, in this case. And so 0 is sort of the ambivalent territory, and then as you rise, this is the sort of move into bullish sentiment, and then as you fall here, below 0, it points to an increasingly bearish sentiment on average. So this is a 2-year snapshot of Bitcoin's crowd sentiment.
I don't
go ahead,
see
Brian.
I don't see the chart.
The chart is not showing.
Oh, okay. Oh, one sec. How about now? Can you see it now?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
All right. Okay, sorry. I think Firefox is giving me issues again. Sorry about that, guys.
Okay.
So this in particular is what I've been referring to is the crowd sentiment chart. And what you see here is the total sentiment towards Bitcoin, in this case on Twitter in particular, over the last 2 years. So 0 is the ambivalent territory. As we move higher, that means increasingly bullish sentiment. As we move lower, that means we're on average increasingly bearish towards Bitcoin. So as you'll see, especially in the last 2 years, these pronounced spikes in bullish sentiment, both during both local tops or actually yearly tops in 2019, and in the last year as well, have usually coincided with short-term either consolidations or price corrections. So for example, this was this massive bullish sentiment around the May halvening, and you can see kind of it coincided with the beginning of consolidation for Bitcoin, and it wasn't until we went super bearish that we started pulling back up again. And then as we started moving up above 10K, once again, there was a massive move into bullish sentiment on average, which coincided with a short-term consolidation and then on eventually a market-wide correction. And then finally, we went back once again into extremely bearish sentiment before we started breaking out again. And then as we went into the 19K, as we reached 19K for Bitcoin, there was another sort of massive wave of bullish sentiment, as you could have seen on your Twitter as well, which coincided with this, beginning of a consolidation period. So in the last couple of weeks, we have seen a move back into bearish territory. On average, it points to the crowd starting to be more and more uncertain about the all-time high breach, which has been sort of a pretty interesting or a pretty positive development for Bitcoin in the past. Obviously, past performance is an indicative of future price action, but it's something to keep in mind. So I definitely, myself, I wouldn't say that we want to see increasingly bullish sentiment either for Bitcoin or XRP. Usually what we see with these social metrics is that the lower they are, both in terms of sentiment, so the more bearish people are and the less chatter there is about a coin, usually that's the sort of the breeding ground for a price recovery, because the coin is not overvalued. In fact, it's kind of flying under the radar. The whales are considering it to be, sort of in this sort of sleeping giant territory. They don't think that the crowd is moving in so that they can dump it just yet. So it's sort of a very fertile territory for a price bounce back or a price recovery. When you're super bullish, it's usually the time that whales start dumping on the crowd. So just want to kind of give that as my 2 cents as far as what we should be looking for as far as social sentiment is concerned. And I'm going to end it there, Eri.
Yeah, I like that, especially when you show that the pattern for that period of time is so consistent with your statement. It's hard to dispute that that's not the case. So yeah, do you have anything, Brian, you wanted to add? Did you want to talk? Yep.
Since I know we're going long on time, the last thing I'll show here is just the fact that you can actually get alerts on all of these metrics at any given time. So you can actually just go to create alert on our platform and get emails or Telegram notifications or even push notifications sent straight to you to let you know when something like Ripple, as I'm doing here, hit apply. You can say,
XRP, Brian.
Excuse me. I'm messed up when I see the actual word Ripple here, but XRP, sorry, once again, you can say moving up or down, 5%, moving down, and you can actually see the amount of times that the signal's fired off over time, right? Mm-hmm. And you can get sort of context for how often you're going to receive this alert over a given time period here. So you can basically create the alert. You can go to more options and actually say email, Telegram, push, all of the above, and then you can click create alert, and you will have it up as your special alert to basically let you know every single time this threshold is crossed, up or down. And it works for volume, works for daily active address, and it works for plenty of other metrics that Dino and myself have talked about here. So want to point that out because it's sort of an underutilized tool on our platform right now. And honestly, I think it's tremendously useful when you're on the go and need to be notified very quickly when a very important metric is firing off or spiking or dipping. That being said, I think we can wrap it up here, Eri. And obviously, we're very thankful that you gave us this platform to show off our metrics. We really think that we have something special here that the crowd and the Ripple community. I know we didn't touch on things like Stellar, VE Chain, or Tezos, but we have plenty of metrics on them as well. And perhaps on a future call we can go over those. But long story short, we've got a lot. We've really touched on just the tip of the iceberg here, and we love showing it off. So anytime you want us back, we're here.
Yeah, the time flies for me. So, I have to let the audience know that I told them let's keep it around 12 minutes. and I said, okay, maybe 15, but it's impossible to do that with this kind of analysis and really when you start diving into it. I really love it personally. And yeah, I think it would be really fun for me to reach out to the channel audience on YouTube and ask them what they want to hear about, and maybe do something in mid-January, and based on what feedback I get on the channel for requests, whether it's VeChain or Tezos or Ethereum, whatever it is, then I can relay that to you ahead of time, and you can prepare some information based on the popularity of particular projects that people are most interested in. Because I do know that, yes, I am an XRP-centric channel, but there are many, 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 many people who watch the channel that have a very wide portfolio. So we want to definitely give people a chance to enjoy some of these metrics that are outside of the XRP world too. Sounds really good to me. I thank you so much. I think, like I said, the time just flies for me. So I really enjoy it. And I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people out there too that find this kind of metric not only enjoyable, but useful too. So you don't have to be necessarily a day trader or a swing trader to find value in it. I think it's valuable for people who are more on a hodler mentality too as well, because it kind of lets you gauge how you're going to build your portfolio moving forward too, because I know a lot of people cost average in as they hold. So yeah, I love it. So Brian and Dino, thank you so much. And I have to say, do take care and sayonara for now. Bye-bye.